Her heart beat in her throat as Gina listened to it. It was difficult for her to comprehend what she was seeing because her mind was clouded with total disbelief. In the beginning, it just seemed silly to assume such a thing. Her eyes were now fixed on the truth. She never expected him to be her father, even though she knew it was possible. It was impossible to deny what Gina saw when she read the email again and again. The doctor who had treated her for 9 years was her father. Her eyes welled with tears as she realized what was happening. It still didn't register with her at the time. In what way could the man her family trusted betray her? It was something Gina couldn't comprehend. Her questions were endless, but she could not find answers to them. The thought of him knowing couldn't escape her. That's why he acted strangely around her, wasn't it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What happened? The doctor deceived her mother in such a tragic manner. How did he do it? What was his reason for not revealing the truth? But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. I was born in 1980, and it all started there. Gina's parents, Felicia and Tony, tried everything to conceive. Although things seemed simple, they weren't. It seemed that the couple would never be able to have the child they both desired, despite their deep love. They didn't know they had a chance until they were offered one. After 5 years of marriage, the couple divorced in 1980. They were both young, as well as their relationship. Their vision was to start a family with this opportunity. After years of saving up and Tony's job was great, why not move forward? They expected it to be easy, but it wasn't. They started the process as soon as they had made up their minds. It seemed like nothing was working, no matter what they tried. Dr. McCulley was their family doctor, so they turned to him. During the couple's fertility treatment, Dr. McCulley advised them that they weren't very compatible. However, there was another option. Using a donor would be possible. A lengthy conversation led to the couple making a decision. After flipping through one file after another, they examined the details of the donors on hand. Eventually, they found each other. Tony looked very much like the donor. Aside from being half Jewish, he also had a distinguished academic background. He was an ideal donor for them in general. In order to receive the cells, Felicia had to undergo a long process of various treatments. It took a while for the couple to get used to the process, even though they were nervous and excited about it. Despite the success of the process, tragedy struck shortly afterward. This would change the course of their lives for the rest of their lives. 3 months into Felicia's pregnancy, Tony was fatally injured in a car accident. During her pregnancy, she had a very difficult time dealing with stress. She kept pushing through, and the baby was delivered. She treasured what she had left of her late husband, and she would cherish it forever. A beautiful young lady, Gina grew up in a single-parent household and adored it. Despite her young age, she was a good child who always tried to please her mother. The problem, however, was that there was no solution. Throughout her childhood, she wondered why none of her friends had daddies. A child of her age would have a hard time understanding. Felicia told Gina the truth at the age of 5. Her father passed away before she was born, so she was conceived through IVF. Due to never knowing her father, it wasn't as hard for the little girl to accept. Eventually, Gina began to understand what Dr. McCulley was about and began to admire him. Seeing her mother's family through the doctor's eyes, she said she had been longing for it. As a result of her parents' decisions, she understood she was a product. Her miracle baby status was well known to her. Because of this, the family adored him. When Gina grew up, she wanted to be like Felicia and use him as her family physician. Neither of them was in any way aware that he held secrets that would affect their lives for the rest of their lives. Nevertheless, the doctor would receive one of the biggest surprises of his life when the truth was revealed soon enough. Gina became a vibrant young woman as she grew oblivious to the truth. Her studies in law took place in Texas after she left California. While her life seemed perfect, she never forgot the discussion she had at age 5 with her mother. The more she thought about the situation, the more troubled she became. The love of Gina's life came into her life when she was 28 years old. They married, and within a short time, they had a family. The situation really began to play through her mind at that point. The doctor who made Gina's childhood possible started fluttering in her mind after baby number 2 was born. The more she thought about it, the more she wanted to go back to her promise as a child. They decided together to move back to California after discussing Gina's thoughts with her husband. A doctor Gina trusted most, who had taken care of her mother, would look after her kids as well. As she made her decision, she had no idea where she was heading. In California, Gina changed her doctor the moment she and her family arrived. After years of not seeing Dr. McCulley, she was quite nervous about her first encounter with him. She will be seeing him sooner rather than later, as her daughter needs a checkup. Her troubles would begin then. Gina took her daughter to the good doctor, and after their appointment, she was thrilled with the decision. She remembered how kind and caring he was when she was a child. The superficiality of Gina's view prevented her from seeing past it. As a result, all the subtle signs went unnoticed. Years passed, and Gina continued to see her family's doctor for every single need. However, she did start noticing those signs as time went on. There was just something she didn't understand about them. It wouldn't be long before the truth came to light. It would be devastating to Gina when she discovered what those signs meant. Behind closed doors, what was actually happening? In what subtle ways did the doctor communicate with you? His comments were the reason for everything. The same beauty you had when you were a child exists in you today. As time passed, his comments became more direct, and Gina became uncomfortable with them. Gina responded to the comments by brushing them off at first. They made her feel uncomfortable, but it wasn't like they were harming her. However, everything changed one morning when Gina went to the doctor. Her doctor did something unprofessional and made her feel uncomfortable on that day. The wife of Dr. McCulley entered the room as Gina lay on the bed waiting to be examined. As if watching a zoo animal, they watched her with fascination. The story wasn't over yet. While no one knew what Gina was considering at the time, she had been considering something. Despite her desire to receive help from the doctor, she decided to hold off after meeting his wife. A memory from her past stirred something within Gina, and that stirred something within her. There is a possibility that she did not know who the man who wanted to be her father was. It was still possible for her to track down the man who initiated the incident. It is possible that Gina's doctor performed a DNA test on her in order to determine her biological father's identity. Having grown up, Gina now had the opportunity to become a mom and dad. It would be her chance to meet the man who gave her life, and her children would have a grandfather. The task was not easy, however. She knew he didn't want her around. Despite this, she was still interested in learning more. As a result of Felicia's death, the desire to find the truth became even stronger. She felt all alone in the world, and the fact that her children had no relatives from her side upset her. They were just looking for a feeling of completeness from her. The difficulties she would face in her quest were completely unknown to her. Gina decided to take a commercial DNA test after failing to get a response from a good doctor. Once the kit arrived, she immediately ordered it from ancestry.com. She had to wait a few weeks for the results, but once she got them, everything changed. There would be a sea change in everything she thought she knew as a result of those results. After a few weeks, the results arrived by mail. As Gina awaited the results of her investigation, she was apprehensive and excited. She was unprepared for the truth, but nothing could prepare her for it. She slipped down on the sofa and tore the letter open with shaky hands. At that moment, she was unable to breathe because of what she saw. According to the database, Gina had several siblings whose ages were similar to hers. Because multiple cells are usually provided by donors, she wasn't surprised at that. Nevertheless, it made her wonder, especially since they appeared to be from the same region. They had all been to the same doctor as their parents, right? The results were taken with a pinch of salt by Gina, and she tried to ignore them. It was only one person listed on the site that kept coming back to her mind. According to the site, the man was her half-brother named Alex. In an attempt to learn more about him, Gina mustered up all her courage and contacted him. They got along very well after Alex agreed to meet Gina. The story of his got Gina thinking for some reason. Dr. McCulley was used by Gina's mother as well, and the stories were surprisingly similar. It must have been just a coincidence, right? Could it have been more than that? Throughout the whole process, had the doctor deceived them? In order to protect the privacy of those depicted, some names, locations, and identifying characteristics have been changed and are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblances to actual events or places or persons, living or dead, are entirely coincidental.